Alrighty, chapter 15, adding authentication. We're going to use Next.js, which is now called Auth.js. And speaking of Auth.js, I have a really in-depth tutorial on Auth.js coming out soon, so I hope you can get a chance to watch that. So yeah, let's go ahead. This tutorial is authentication, another cool thing to add. So what is authentication? Authentication is a key part of many web applications today. It's how a system checks if the user is who they say they are. And this is a very important point here. Authentication versus authorization. Authentication is making sure the user is who they say they are. You're proving this by giving your username and password. Authorization is the next step. Once a user's identity is confirmed, authorization decides what parts of the application they are allowed to use. So authentication checks who you are, and authorization determines what you can do or access in the application. Time for a quiz. Which of the following best describes the difference between authentication and authorization? Authentication determines what you can access? No. Authentication verifies your identity. Authorization determines what you can access. Right? Keywords like, are you authorized to do this? Create the login route. Let me collapse and close. And let's create a login route, which is going to locate an app, new folder, login, and new file page.tsx. Quick point, let's go to our dashboard just to see what we're working with real quick. Okay. And let's implement our login page. It looks very simple. We have a logo and a form. Here's the logo and here's the form. Let's peek into the form real quick. We have a simple form component. H1, please continue to log in. We have an email field, and we have a password field, and a login button. Let's peek into the login button. It's literally a button that just says login with an arrow. Okay. And let's look at this page. So it's localhost 3000/login. There we go. A nice simple login page. Okay, we're going to use Next.auth, so let's go ahead and install Next.auth. Copy this and paste. Okay, in order to use Next.auth, we're going to need a secret key, and we are going to use this secret key. Oh, sorry, we're going to use this command to create a secret key. That's our nice secret key. When you're in production, make sure to use a new one because it's not the one I'm using in the video. And that's going to go right here under Auth Secret. I'm going to go ahead and save. Yeah. And if you want, you can put it in parentheses. Sorry, in quotes, to make it more, in a way, easier to read, in my opinion. Okay, let's boot up the dev server again. I don't think we need the terminal. And we added our auth secret, adding the pages option. So let's create a new file called, in our root, called auth.config.ts. Here we go. And we're importing the type next.auth.config. And we're exporting a constant called auth.config, and we're setting the pages of sign in slash. So we're telling the app and Next.auth where is our sign in page, because otherwise it'll use this built-in sign in page. And now we have. Okay, I'm gonna type this out and explain this instead of just copying pasting this one. Satisfies next.auth.config, and we need callbacks. And we need providers. So providers is why it's throwing an error. So let's go with that. So callbacks. Callbacks are what to do during the process of routes that are authenticated. During the sign out, sign in, sign up, when you're changing pages. So one of the callbacks, see TypeScript's helping us out here because we satisfy next.config. These are all the callbacks. We're using the authorized callback. And we're destructuring a couple of things here. The auth and the request, and we're destructuring the request even more to get the next URL. So everything that's going on is authorized callback right now is going to be controlling basically, hey, if you're logged in, you can be on the dashboard. If you're not logged in, I want you to go to the login page. So we're going to create a couple of booleans here. The first is logged in, and this is just going to be the double exclamation point is going to turn into a boolean. So if we have a user, then is logged in will be true. If we don't have a user on the auth object, then we will not. Then is logged in will be false. Next boolean we will use is on dashboard, and all it's saying is look at the next URL, look at the path name, and does it start with dashboard? So this will cover dashboard. This will cover dashboard / invoices. This will cover dashboard / whatever else we had. I don't remember. But it'll cover everything starting with everything on our dashboard. So our whole dashboard will not be accessible if we're not logged in. So this will be true or false. And then so now we have a couple of if statements. Is on dashboard. So if we're on the dashboard and we are logged in, return true. Okay? If you're on the dashboard pages and you're logged in, you're good to go. Otherwise, just return false. Okay? I'll write the comment here. Redirect unauthenticated users to login page. Else, so that means we're on any other page that's not a dashboard page. So if we are, else if we are logged in, then return response.redirect and redirect the user to the dashboard. Because if they're logged in, why are they on the login page? Let's put them to the dashboard. If they're not logged in and they're not on the dashboard, they can stay wherever they are. So if they're on the logged in page and they're not logged in, they should be able to stay there. Okay, so that covers that. We protect our dashboard pages, and we only let them go in if they're on the dashboard page and if they're logged in. So we have some nested if statements here, but I think personally this is pretty clean. And we're keeping it all in one file. Okay, so now we're going to use Next.js is a middleware API, which is also really cool. So we just create a new file in our root called middleware.ts. It has to be called middleware.ts. And I will go and type out most of this. So we'll import Next.auth from Next.auth. We will import our auth config, which is that file we just made. So this whole config file we're gonna import, and we'll export a default Next.auth, pass in our auth config to Next.auth, and we'll export the .auth property on it. Okay, so let's just read what they say here. Oh, and we need this matcher. And basically this matcher says run this middleware on these paths, which says does it explain? We can read that real quick. Let's see here. So yeah, basically saying here, we match all requests. I'm just gonna copy this. Okay. Match all request paths except for the ones starting with API, next static files, images, and the favicon. So we don't want the middleware to run on the favicon and our static files or API routes. We just want it to run on the actual pages. So it's gonna run on every other path. And then so here you're initializing Next.auth with the auth config object. That's this part right here. And exporting the auth property. You're also using the matcher option for middleware to specify that it should only run on specific routes. Okay, the advantage of employing middleware for this task is that the protected routes will not even start rendering until the middleware verifies the authentication. So this middleware will run before every page. So when it's changing pages, it's going to run the middleware first. And then based on our callback here, we will see if we can even go to that page. Okay, password hashing. Let's see here. So yes, it's good to never store plain text passwords, always hash passwords. So in our c.js file, which is in lib, maybe? Yeah. No. Where's our c.js file? Scripts. In our scripts c.js file, we have a function. We have a library called bcrypt, and basically we are just going to hash the user's password with bcrypt.hash. Let's see here. You were using it later this chapter? Okay, so we can pause on that. Let's create a new file called auth.ts on our root. And auth.ts works together with auth.config.ts, but it's two separate files. You can read more about that in next auth documentation. Okay, so here we have our next auth imported. We have our auth config, which is right next door, and then we are exporting const here next auth. We're going to spread the auth config, and we're going to extract the auth function, the sign in function, and the sign out function. And here's where we're going to add our providers. So if you recall, the providers was an empty array. Because we spread this first, now we can override the providers with actual providers. And we're doing this for reasons that I feel like are out of scope of the tutorial. So we're going to import credentials from next.auth/provider/credentials. Okay. So it's recommended to use OAuth providers instead of credentials providers, because I guess it's more safe. But I think it's more of a good learning experience to use credentials providers, and that's what they're using. So we're going to import z from Zod, and in the credentials provider we will have an async authorize function, which will take in credentials, and we can do parse credentials. So right now credentials is as type. Let's see here. Pretty much anything. So we need to use Zod to make sure the credentials are what we want them to be, which is an email, and Zod is a handy email validator, and a string password with a minimum length of 6. And right now, we're talking about the login or sign-in functionality right now. Safe parse credentials. Okay. It's going to throw an error for the moment because we're still working with TypeScript. And this is pretty much the reason why we have to create a separate file to work with a database. So import SQL from Vercel Postgres, import type user from our types at, and import bcrypt from bcrypt. This is for logging in. We have to check if our hash is okay. Then we're going to throw this function at the top. Get user. We're going to pass in our email, and we're going to return a user. Select star from users where email is email. If you remember our c.js, we actually inserted a user. We mapped over the users, which was a single user whose email is user@nextmail.com and password 123456. So we already have a user in the database. We just haven't used it yet. And so let's do this. So if parse credentials.success, let's pull out the email and password. Let's get the user using our get user email, and if there's no user, return null. And then outside we'll also return null. But we're not done yet. Then here we will do. So if we don't have a user, return null. Now if we have a user, let's check what the password is good. So passwords match is bcrypt.compare the password you gave us versus the user's actual password. If the passwords match, return user. So if this is true, then return the user. Otherwise, we will return null. We can even do this log here, invalid credentials. Okay. And now we have to update our login form, it looks like. Let's see here. So we're going to go to our actions. Actions. Lib actions. And we'll go to the bottom. Oh, let's delete this error right here. Okay. And let's actually minimize these. Okay. Let's import sign in from our auth file, and let's import auth error from Next.auth, which should be a class, I believe. Yes. So export async function authenticate, which will take in a previous date of string or undefined. So it looks like we're going to use the use form state hook later. Form data is equal to form data. And we have a function, a try catch. So await sign in. We have to pass in our provider. We're using credentials. And we have to pass in our form data. Okay, and then we'll catch the error. And let's just copy this. So if the error is an instance of auth error, we'll switch. That means it could be it has a type property on it. And if the type is credential sign in, we'll return invalid credentials. Otherwise, we will return something went wrong. If it's not an auth error, we'll just throw the error. Okay, and let's go to our login form. And just like I said, we're going to use the use form state hook. So we're going to have to go and make this a client component. We've seen most of this before with the invoice form, so I'm going to copy paste most of this. Okay, we also have a new hook here called use form status. So I'll slow down when that part comes. We're importing the use form state hook, which we've seen before, the use form status hook, which we haven't seen before, and the authenticate function we just made. Okay, we're going to go ahead and initiate the use form state. We'll pass in the authenticate action, and we'll make the initial state undefined this time instead of the object. And we're going to go ahead and pass the action of dispatch. Okay. And anything else we need to do? Oh, so right below the login button. So right here, add form errors here. Thank you for the comment. Right here. So we will have basically just a little message showing the error, if we have an error. And our error is going to be here. We're calling this, last time we called it status, I believe. We're calling it error message. What did we call it in the create form? We called it state. So we're just calling it error message. We're being more explicit. It's not an object this time. Okay, so use form status allows us to get access to a pending variable, and this pending variable is useful because we can show when a form is in the middle of submitting. So we have to use form status on a button that is inside of a form. So this login button is inside the form. The button just extracted out. Use form disabled is equal to pending. Okay, so now we have this function as pending, we should see something show when it's signing in. And then it wants us to jump out to the side nav and add that functionality to the sign out button. So where's our side nav? It's on dashboard, side nav, and right here. So we're gonna do everything in line this time. Action is equal to async, and we'll do use server, and we'll say await sign out, which comes from our auth. Quick reminder: our sign in and sign out functions are coming from this auth.ts file we made. Auth sign in sign out. Try it out. Okay, so let's try it out. Let's go to our login page. Let's first submit nothing. Login. Let's try user at nextmail.com, and let's put the wrong password in for it first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Invalid credentials. Now let's try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we are signed into our dashboard. Let's try our middleware. Let's go to login. If we shouldn't be able to go to login anymore. The middleware should redirect us to the dashboard page. Yep, see? And let's try signing out. And that works. And let's try to go to the dashboard page. It shouldn't let us. Dashboard. Yep, see? So we can log back in again. User at nextmail.com. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a very bare bones authentication that we just set up. But it's pretty useful information. And that's the end of chapter 15.